Have you ever wondered how different our world might look if the Roman Empire never crumbled? Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to Vanduul Theories and drop a like on this video. We'll be exploring an alternate timeline that challenges our assumptions about history, technology, and the destiny of civilization. And you won't want to miss a single episode of this four-part deep dive. The year is 476 AD, and the Western Roman Empire stands on the precipice of disaster. Invading Germanic tribes have laid waste to key provinces, corruption runs rampant through the imperial court, and the treasury strains under the weight of endless wars. In the familiar course of history, this moment would herald the end of an era. The last Western emperor would be deposed, the city of Rome would wither, and Europe would drift into centuries of fragmented rule and diminishing literacy. Yet here, in this alternate tapestry of events, we imagine that Rome does not succumb to its wounds. Instead, a determined coalition of senators, generals, and civic leaders musters the resolve to bolster the empire from within, implementing pivotal reforms to preserve both the city and the civilization it represents. Rather than abdicating power, the Western emperor, advised by visionaries who see how perilous the situation has become, begins a program of swift action. First and foremost, corruption is met head-on. Provincial governors, long accustomed to skimming taxes, are dismissed or prosecuted, and new officials are appointed under a more robust system of accountability. Public grain distribution, vital for keeping the populace on Rome's side, is restored in key urban centers. Wealthy landowners are persuaded to support the state through a combination of patriotic fervor, economic incentives, and at times discreet intimidation. As roads are maintained and new roads built, the military can be rapidly deployed to troubled zones, stifling rebellions before they escalate. In this renewed empire, the administrative framework holds rather than crumbles. This consolidation of power translates into a critical shift. The so-called Dark Ages never properly begin. Without a power vacuum, there is no abrupt collapse of infrastructure or sudden halt to scholarship in the Western provinces. While war continues on some frontiers, urban centers like Rome, Ravenna, Carthage, and Milan remain integral to the empire's administrative machinery. Libraries and archives, spared from the fires of civil unrest, expand rather than contract. Scholars who once fled to monasteries find themselves welcomed in well-funded academies, where they refine their knowledge of Greek, Latin, and the classical works that had underpinned Roman intellectual life for centuries. In this reimagined context, the pursuit of knowledge thrives. The empire no longer merely preserves the vestiges of ancient learning, it actively supports the thinkers, inventors, and explorers who stand at the cusp of discoveries. From a technological standpoint, this enduring Roman state delves more seriously into concepts that had historically remained on the fringes. The Aeolipile, an early steam device known as the first rudimentary heat engine, gains renewed attention from natural philosophers. In a more stable empire, these intellectuals are funded to perfect mechanical contraptions and expand upon theories of pressure, energy, and motion. While many traditionalists dismiss the contraptions as curiosities, progressive elements within the Senate push for their adaptation in workshops and agricultural facilities. By the 8th century, small-scale steam engines begin powering pumps for irrigation, leading to greater crop yields and healthier urban food supplies. The seeds of an industrial shift are planted centuries earlier than in our documented timeline. Religious life in this revitalized Rome straddles an uneasy middle ground. Christianity has already gained immense popularity, particularly in the upper echelons of society, yet various older pagan traditions linger in local rituals and festivals. Rather than vigorously stamping out these polytheistic pockets, the renewed leadership employs a policy of careful tolerance to maintain unity. In major cities, basilicas and pagan temples stand side by side. A culture of measured syncretism emerges, where a state-led Christianity is predominant, but not enforced to the point of inciting deep unrest. Over time, Christian doctrine exerts a steady influence on governance and morality, pushing gladiatorial games toward more theatrical or symbolic forms of conflict rather than lethal spectacle. Language, too, evolves under the aegis of a single, continuous polity. Latin remains the imperial tongue, ensuring that administrative documents, military orders, and scholarly treatises maintain a consistent linguistic standard. Meanwhile, local dialects and foreign languages persist in the provinces, but the cohesive cultural gravity of a stable empire prevents the explosive diversification seen in our real Middle Ages. In Gaul, Hispanian provinces, and Britannia, one may still hear local Celtic or Germanic tongues, but the official roads, inscriptions, and teaching in academies reinforce Latin as the unifying medium of communication. By offering broader citizenship rights and representation in the imperial bureaucracy, Rome effectively weaves distant territories into the same tapestry of law, language, and allegiance. Politically, the Western Empire, though still officially ruled by an emperor, adopts structural innovations that resemble a primitive form of federalism. Provincial assemblies are granted limited authority to legislate on local matters, provided their decisions do not conflict with overarching imperial policy. A reconstituted Senate, bolstered by intellectuals and provincial representatives, can suggest new laws and oversee essential reforms. With barbarian incursions slowed by fortified frontiers and improved logistics, Rome does not simply cling to survival, it begins to dream of further conquests, or at least reasserting dominion over territories lost in the preceding decades. Where historically Odoacer or Theodoric the Great might have founded separate kingdoms, they now become either allies of the empire or are integrated into its command structure, gradually adopting Roman customs and titles. As the 7th and 8th centuries roll on, this alternative empire refines its administrative apparatus. Enhanced record-keeping supports more accurate tax collection, fairer distribution of resources, and a surplus devoted to public works. Engineers build or upgrade aqueducts in places that might never have seen them otherwise, pushing Roman infrastructure deeper into the hinterlands of Europe. Additionally, the Western Empire maintains strong ties with its eastern counterpart in Constantinople, facilitating a continued exchange of political ideas, religious debates, and the unending flow of trade goods along the Mediterranean. Joint campaigns sometimes unite Western and Eastern legions against common threats, reinforcing a sense of pan-Roman unity that was once frayed by rivalries and schisms. Culturally, urban centers flourish as melting pots of old Roman norms, local customs, and influences from as far away as Persia and India. Merchants from Alexandria, Antioch, and Carthage introduce exotic spices and textiles to the markets of Rome and Ravenna, while architects trained in the classical style combine arches and domes with new experimental designs. Amphitheaters and theaters stay active, hosting not only the remnants of gladiatorial lore, but also elaborate stage plays, chariot races adapted to changing tastes, and early forms of opera or musicals. The classics of Latin literature, once in danger of being lost, remain staples in educational curricula. While literacy remains uneven, pockets of high learning spread outward, nurtured by the stability that a reformed and reinvigorated Roman Empire can sustain. Medical knowledge, drawn from both Greek and Roman roots, edges forward. Surgeons refine techniques that were once reserved only for battlefield amputations, and the empire invests more in public health measures beyond simple aqueducts and baths. The tradition of building hospitals near military outposts grows, and these facilities extend service to the civilian population. Over generations, a formalized approach to healthcare and sanitation emerges, mitigating plagues that historically devastated medieval Europe. While epidemics might still strike, an unbroken chain of scholarly tradition stands ready to investigate causes and share remedies across the empire's vast road network. Meanwhile, in the provinces, local leaders who might have declared themselves kings or warlords in another era now enjoy elevated positions within a Roman framework. They retain a modicum of autonomy to preserve cultural identity, but they owe ultimate allegiance to the emperor and to the Senate. Thus, the seeds of nationalism that sprouted during the fragmentation of Europe are either delayed or replaced by loyalty to a broader Roman identity. Over time, these diverse populations come to see the empire less as a distant overlord and more as a guarantor of security, civic order, and economic prosperity. Revolts can and do occur, but are quickly subdued by a standing army that remains disciplined and well-funded. At sea, Roman maritime tradition thrives, drawing on centuries of knowledge from seafaring peoples, Greeks, Phoenicians, Egyptians. The empire invests in larger ships with better navigation equipment. The unbroken channels of trade from the eastern Mediterranean encouraged the exploration of new shipping routes, fueling speculation that unknown lands lie beyond the Atlantic. By the 10th century, explorers sanctioned by Roman authorities may set out to confirm these rumors, leading to potential contact with the Americas many centuries before the voyages of Columbus in our timeline. If Rome successfully establishes footholds across the ocean, the entire trajectory of global trade shifts. Resources, plants, and ideas from the New World could integrate into the empire's sphere, igniting an even more vibrant cultural fusion. Back in the heart of the empire, the question of entertainment evolves beyond bloody spectacles. Gladiatorial games had begun their decline historically due to the Christian ethos and a changing public appetite, and in this alternate scenario, they morph into elaborate events that highlight martial skill but reduce lethal outcomes. Instead of mortal combat, extravaganzas might feature advanced stunts, mechanical illusions, and staged tournaments that celebrate Roman martial glory without the same level of carnage. Festivals become massive affairs, blending local traditions with imperial celebrations. A single year's calendar brims with holy feasts, harvest festivals, and commemorations of critical military victories that reaffirm the empire's unity and heritage. This flourishing state, however, carries its own set of challenges. As trade and industry grow, social stratification becomes more pronounced, setting the stage for class tensions. Wealth clusters in urban centers and among administrative elites. The empire's leadership must walk a fine line between fostering innovation and preventing the discontent that arises when newly wealthy merchants jostle with entrenched aristocrats. Some call for distributing land or spoils more evenly, while others cling to the old hierarchy that has historically favored patrician families. Religious debate simmers as well. A strong pro-Christian faction might rail against lingering pagan influences, sparking episodes of repression or conversely open conflict if tolerance policies loosen too far. Maintaining a unified empire demands constant diplomatic skill, both at the highest levels and in local governance. Still, the momentum of a society that never lost its administrative backbone or cultural cohesion propels Rome forward. By the 11th century, the empire that once faced annihilation has charted new realms of possibility. Steam-powered contraptions have advanced beyond simple pumps. Philosophers debate theories of astronomy that place the Earth in motion rather than the center of the cosmos, pushing the boundaries of accepted dogma. Collaboration with the Eastern Roman Empire has allowed theological rifts to be navigated with more nuance, keeping the Christian world more unified than it would have been otherwise. Latin, evolving steadily yet coherently, remains the official language of law and scholarship, though it incorporates loanwords from Berber, Germanic, Slavic, and Semitic tongues picked up along the empire's far-flung trade routes. Perhaps the greatest change is the sense of an empire-wide identity. People from Britannia to Africa, from Hispania to Illyria, see themselves as part of an unbroken Roman continuum. Though local customs persist, Roman law, roads, currency, and institutions bind them together. Trade caravans run from the edges of the Sahara to the forests of Germania, and maritime routes connect the empire to both the Atlantic Isles and the distant Silk Road, forging cross-cultural ties that nourish an increasingly sophisticated society. A Roman citizen living in Carthage can travel to Constantinople or even to new colonies abroad, using a network of roads and sea lanes that remain secure, patrolled by a navy that draws on centuries of shipbuilding expertise. All of these achievements set the stage for the next great questions. Will this empire, so adept at weathering crisis and integrating diverse peoples, push its reach across the globe? Or will it instead focus on fortifying and refining the territories it already holds? How will it respond when confronted with equally dynamic civilizations beyond its current horizons, such as those in sub-Saharan Africa, India, or China? And, most crucially, can a superstate with roots so far back in antiquity truly govern an ever-expanding populace without eventually fracturing under its own weight? In this first chapter of a four-part journey, we have glimpsed the immediate aftermath of a world where Rome never fell. We have explored how the empire might steady itself, safeguard learning, rework its political structures, and nurture innovations that radically alter the pace of human progress. As we move forward, we will look deeper into the geopolitical ramifications, the potential expansions and inevitable rivalries, and the ways in which culture, technology, and faith may continue to evolve under Rome's enduring banner. This realm, fashioned by disciplined legions and intellectual fervor, stands poised at the threshold of an epoch unrecognizable to our own timeline. The seeds of a Roman-led Renaissance have been sown, and the harvest promises to reshape the world in astonishing ways. If you enjoyed this deep dive into a Rome that never fell, remember to subscribe to Vanduul Theories and like this video. Your support fuels more explorations of history's biggest what-ifs. Share your thoughts in the comments and get ready for part 2, where we'll dive into how this resurgent empire might extend its influence beyond the Mediterranean and rewrite the destiny of entire continents. Together, let's keep pushing the boundaries of imagination, because sometimes envisioning an alternate past offers a whole new perspective on our shared future.